All right, assalamu alaikum. As promised, we're back. I'm a little late. I said 7:55, but I'm still here. I'm back. I was just getting my information correct, making sure I had everything thorough. I see some of you are you're late yourselves, so I'm gonna give you guys a few moments to check to come to the show, to come back. Let me go ahead and send out some tweets and let everybody know that we have started the next show. All right. So we're gonna send out some tweets and let everybody know that we have started. So let's see. Let me do that right now. While we wait for people to come on in, let's go ahead and send out some tweets very quickly. Just those who are joining us, we're just waiting for a few people to join in, and those who may watch this later, bear with us as we're going to send out some tweets to remind everybody that the second show we said we had a show earlier a little while ago, about 30 minutes ago, 30 to 45 minutes ago. So if you watch this at a later time, don't run away. Just hold on. We're going to be starting the show in just a few moments. We just want to send out some notifications to everybody, let everybody know that the show has started. So just bear with us, those who watch this, who are watching now, and who will watch this later. All right, join us live right now. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's see here. Okay, there we go. Make sure I'm just checking my Twitter real quick, make sure that it came out, it shows properly. Make sure it shows properly on my Twitter. Okay, yes, looking good. Oh man, I always forget to put the hashtags on it, man. All right, let me send it again. Hashtags. Join us live. Islam, Muslims, what else? Hashtags for Quran, that's a good one. All right. Okay, there we go. Let's try that one. All right. Okay. All right. Looks good. All right. Looks good. Let's go ahead and get to this. So yeah, we got to get this going. Okay, so as was said, I'm gonna just go ahead and start. Make sure this is coming through. Okay. All right. So, as was said, those of you who watched the last show, which was a replay of the debate, right? The replay of the debate that we had. As you saw towards the end of the debate, there was the question and answer period, and in which a female called up, and she had asked about this word that we had been discussing throughout the debate, which was the Anthropos, right? What was the meaning of this word? Could it only be used? Is it only used for human being only? Could it be used for God? And as I had said and asserted throughout my work in my debates, that from what I've seen, that yes, this word is only applied, it means a human being, a full human being. And it says that it distinguishes, this word distinguishes human beings from God, or God from human beings. It shows a distinctness. So that means this word cannot be used for God, right? God can't be Anthropos. In fact, as I've said during that debate and other debates, there are verses in the Bible where God says that he's not Anthropos, right? In the Greek version of the Old Testament, right, he says that he is not Anthropos. That word is there. It says he is not that. Hosea 11:9, Numbers chapter 23, what's that? 23 and 19, I think it is. There's a number of verses in the Old Testament where God says that he's not a human being. Okay, he's not a human being. And particularly in this instance, we're referring to the Greek because, my argument was built upon the usage of this word in John chapter 8, verse 40, right, of the New Testament, where Jesus is said to say, alleged to have said, that they are trying to kill him. He says, you seek to kill me, a man. Really, it's a human being. The word is human being. The Greek word for man, meaning male, as in the male gender, is aner, right? That means male, like I'm a man, meaning, I'm of the male, I'm the male gender, I'm a man. But this anthropos means human being, right? Human being. He's saying, you trying to kill me, a human being that has told you the truth that I heard from God, right? And the argument is as follows, is that here Jesus is clearly saying that he is a full human being, and based upon what I've seen of my research of this word, that he is saying he is only a human being. The Christian argument is that Jesus is supposedly a two-natured person, right? He's God. They say he's fully God and fully human being. However, this word anthropos, as my research has shown me, and I'm going to show you, that this word does not allow for that understanding. It does not allow for a person to be both a full human being and the full, complete God himself. Because it says that this word distinguishes or makes a distinctness between God and man, human beings and man and God. It distinguishes. And then you'll see some of the other meanings of this word demonstrate that the qualities that this word carries can't be applied to God, as you saw in the debate. Human weaknesses, human frailties. How can that be applied to God? It can't. Okay? So my opponent, William, in that debate was saying that the word could be used for God, or, it has an exception that it could be used for God. And I was accused of lying, that I had that when I was reading the entries that I have from my source, the online, which seems to be a, taking from an online version of Vine's Bible dictionary. He accused me of lying. He said, you're lying. He said, you're lying. You're not reading the whole thing. So let's take a look at it and let's find out if I was lying, or if William Albrecht was wrong. Let's find out who was wrong here. Was it me? Was I lying? Or was he wrong? Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so this is, as you see here, this is the site that I used. It's blueletterbible.org. I recommend it for people who want to study these things, because it gives you, if you go into Old Testament, it'll show you the Hebrew, and it has the language sources to help you with the references to that word, how to pronounce it, some of the meanings of this word, the etymology of it, the various usages of it, the understandings of it. It's pretty good. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so this is the source that I used way back when I wrote my book, and when I had done my debates, and I used that argument. All right. So let's take a look at it. So as you can see, first off, as you can see, it tells you right here, just in a very basic way, the meaning of the word anthropos. Root word. See where it says root word etymology. What does it say? Man face, i.e., a human being. A human being. God is not a human being, everyone. Right? God is not a human being in any shape, form, or fashion. So just right there on the basic, right, on just the basic understanding of the word, it's human being. It's not for God. God is not a human being. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's get to Vines and Vines entry, and let's see if Mr. Islam Answers Back lied, which is myself. Was I lying? So here's what I was looking at on the day of the debate. All right, let's see as it loads it up. All right, so here's here's what I was reading when the lady asked the question. Okay, here's what you see. It says, here's the definition, right? But as you see, it says Vine's Expository Dictionary of the New Testament Words. Okay, and in Strong's it is G444. Greek anthropos. So what does it use? Men, man. See also men. Is used generally of a human being, male or female, without reference to sex or nationality. Right? Here's the part. Here's the key word. Here's the next one. In distinction from God. In distinction from God. If this word is used to in distinction from God, how then can it be applied to God? Is the question. And my argument, that's my argument. This is the word that John has Jesus using. The second entry is that this word is used in distinction from God. But the Christians tell us that Jesus is supposed to be God. If he's supposed to be God, why then does the writer of John have Jesus saying very clearly that he is anthropos, which means that he is a human being that is in distinction from God, which means he's not God at all. But again, I was accused of lying. William said that somewhere in the entries that it does show an exception to be applied to God. I didn't see that, and I still don't see it. So let's take a look and see. And he accused me of lying. So let's find out if I lied. Okay, let's go down the line. It says in distinction from animals. And again, this is a human being. So it distinguishes you from animals. It distinguishes you from God. And it distinguishes God from you and animals from you. Because what? You're a human being. Again, this is the word for human being. So they translate it because, in Old English, man could also mean human beings, right? Even though it didn't include women. I mean, it included women, but you would just say mankind. Mankind, man, meaning a human being. Okay? Let's see. It says in some instances, sometimes in the plural of men and women, i.e. people, right? So it includes men and women, human beings, men and women, people. Okay? In some instances, look at this, with a suggestion of human frailty and imperfection, everyone. Again, how could this apply to God in any way? You see what I'm saying? How could this apply to God in any way? If it does, then you are attributing human frailties to God. If it does, you are attributing imperfection to God. You see? So this is why I use my argument that this shows that this word, if you use this word, you are not God at all. You can't be God at all. You can't be God at all. And again, I looked at it. I didn't see anywhere where it is used in reference to God at all. And it would make sense that it can't be because based upon these attributes that this word carries. You see it on the screen. These are the words, these are the attributes that this word carries. How could it then, therefore, be applied to God? If it is, then God will then be attributed with these, as you see here, human frailties, imperfection. All right, let's continue. It says in the phrase translated after man, after the manner of men, as a man, according to kata, man, is used only by the Apostle Paul of. Look at this. The practices of fallen humanity. Again, man, humanity fallen. How could that be applied to God? Okay. Look at this. Anything of human origin. Again, so look at that. Anything of human origin. Is God something of human origin? Ask yourself the question, people. Is God anything of human origin? The answer is no, right? No. The answer is no. God is not anything of human origin. How can this word then be applied to him? But again, he said, I lied, and so let's see. Okay. The laws that govern the administration of justice among men. Okay. The standard generally accepted among men. An illustration not drawn from Scripture. 6. Probably equal to use a figurative expression. To speak evil of men with whom he had contended at Ephesus as beast. Lightfoot prefers from worldly motives, but the other interpretation, number 4, seems to make better sense. See Romans 6:19, where, however, the Greek is slightly different. Anthropos, pertaining to what? Pertaining to mankind. The meaning is as Nos 5:6 from the Galatians, hog and vine. All right, let's see. In the phrase, in the inward man, to regenerate, the regenerate person's spiritual nature personified, the inner self of the believer, as approving of the law of God, still not applied to God. This is like the believer in the inner self of the believer as approving of the law of God, as the sphere of the renewing power of the Holy Spirit in 2 Corinthians, where anthropos is not repeated. In contrast to the outward man, the physical frame, the man as cognizable by the senses, the inward man is identical with the hidden man of the heart. In expressions, the old man, the new man, which are confined to Paul's letters, epistles, the former standing for the unregenerative nature personified as the former self of a believer, which, having been crucified with Christ, is to be apprehended practically as such and to be put off, being the source and seat of sin. The later, the new man, standing for the new nature personified as the believers. Again, see, all of this is the man, not God. The human being. Whether the human being's righteous, unrighteous, when he's in line with Christ, whether he's in line with the Holy Spirit, but it's still speaking of him as a man. It's referring to the man, the human being, the believer, approving of God's law and such. Let's see, the later, the new man, standing for the new person personified as the believer's regenerative self, a nature created in righteousness and holiness of truth, and of having been put on at regeneration, being renewed after the image of him that created him. It is to be put on in practical apprehension these acts. All right, let's see. Often joined with another noun, literally a man, a glutton, a man, a householder, a certain king, literally a man, a king. Look, I said literally a man, a king. Just as IJ as equivalent simply to a person or one, whether man or woman. Again, right? God's not a man or woman, but this is whether a man or woman, a person, in this sense, a person, man or woman. Let's see. Like the pronoun to someone, just as rendered man, or again, as a man. Now, here's the important part. He said K. I just picked it up when I listened to it again, that he said that, I guess he said section K, right? He was telling me section K. Section K. I don't see section K saying anything about it applying to God. It says definitely with the article of some particular person. Matthew 12:13, Mark 3:3 and 5, or with the demonstrative pronoun and the article. For the phrase the Son of Man, see Son of Man. For the man of sin, see iniquity. So he said K. So as you see K, I don't see where it says God here. I don't see where anthropos is applied to God here. right? As you see here, look, you see it right there on the screen. Section K, if you go back and listen, he was saying Section K. Go look at Section K. Well, I'm looking at Section K now, and I don't see Section K saying that it refers to God. It mentions Son of Man, but not God. And the Son of Man is not God. The Son of Man is not God. Right? Son of Man is not a word that equates to God. Right? Son of Man is as they say. Let's take a look here. This is a website called Bible Tools. Right? Bible Tools. Let's see. What does Son of Man mean? Here it says, Jesus often called himself the Son of Man as part of his interactions with people. On the one hand, saying he was the Son of Man would have been a very ordinary thing to say. You hear that? It would have been a very ordinary thing to say, like it's used in Ezekiel in the Old Testament. Son of Man can simply mean what? A human being. A human being. So Son of Man is not referred to God, but let's see what else they say. But of course, Jesus also was speaking to his identity as the Messiah. Well, the Messiah is not God either, right? The Messiah is not God either. The Messiah is the anointed. It means the anointed one, i.e. the anointed one of God. So in other words, the Messiah is still not God himself. You are a person that has been anointed by God. The Israelites called their kings the anointed one. All their kings were anointed ones. Their kings were messiahs because they were anointed, right? The Israelite who would sit on the throne would be the anointed one. He's not God, but he's been given authority by God to rule over the Israelites. So K, William, I don't see K showing me that it's applied to God still. Okay. So in that passage, right, in that entry of Vine, according to what I'm looking at here, you were yelling out K, 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 and looking at K here, I don't see where it shows a reference to that it can be used for God. It's showing that it can be used for the Son of Man, but not for God. The Son of Man is not God. Right? As I just read there, the Son of Man was an ordinary thing to say in the Old Testament. It was an ordinary thing to say. It wasn't something that God used. God wasn't the Son of Man. God is not the Son of Man. And they showed that it could be further as far as, pointing to something a little bit above just the ordinary human being, but the Messiah, right? The Messiah. So he says here, here in this, what I'm showing you on the screen, he was alluding to Daniel 7, claiming his messiahship and his role in the redemption of the world. But again, the Messiah is not God, right? The Messiah is not God. The Messiah is the anointed of God, but he is not God himself. Okay? So let's see what else this says. It says, Jesus' humanity mattered. Jesus was conceived by the Spirit and full of the Spirit of God, but he was birthed by Mary and was born a man. His ability to sympathize in all our weaknesses and not sin means he was and is the only one who could redeem us. Okay? So I see nothing about God, that the Son of Man means God himself. Okay? And as you see here in Vines, so far everything we looked at thus far shows no indication where Anthropos is applied to God, even in section K, right? Even in section K, we don't see an exception where it means God. Okay, and that's what he was yelling. If you go back and listen, he was saying section K. He said, I didn't read section K. So now I'm looking at section K and I don't see where it refers to God. I repeat, if he was implying that here, when section K, Son of Man is God, well, he's wrong. The Son of Man is not God. By definition of those words, Son of Man, the The words used show that it's not God. The Son of Man. God can't be the Son of Man because he's God, everyone, right? So by just the usage of the words son, God is no one's son, and of man, God can't be the son of man, of human beings, or any man because he's God. So just by the definition of the words that are used in the phrase negates that it can't be God. But as we looked at some of their own explanation, the Christian explanation of it, that it's not a reference to God either. As the Bible Tools website showed us, that saying Son of Man was an ordinary thing to say for many people. It was an ordinary thing. It just meant a human being. In the Old Testament, according to that website, it was a human being. An ordinary thing to say. If you did want to get more specific, then it could be a reference to the Messiah. But again, the Messiah is not God. The Jews didn't believe that the Messiah was God himself. Right? The Jews didn't believe, and they don't believe. Jews that are still waiting for the Messiah to come, they're not expecting God to come. They're expecting a man to come, a human man to come, who will be their anointed one and will help them restore the temple. But they're not expecting God. You can look at their own literature and they talk about this. They're not looking for God himself to come. They're expecting a human being to come who will be anointed by God. So, I'm sorry, William, but even here in section K, I do not see where Anthropos can be applied to God Almighty himself, Yahweh. I do not see that. Okay, I do not see that. So let's continue. Maybe maybe it's further down. Let's see. Let's continue further down. Here it says in L, in the phrase "the man of God," not used as an official designation, nor denoting a special class of believers. So in other words, just a regular man of God. It's not here it's saying that it's not a special, classification of a person, of a believer. Any believer can be called a man of God. It specifies what every believer should be. So everybody's supposed to be a man of God. Everybody's supposed to, who are believers in that, right? Everybody's supposed to be that. It's not something special. So Anthropos is a man of God, but he's not good, but it's not God himself. It specifies what every believer should be, namely a person whose life and conduct represents the mind of God and fulfills his will. Right, you do the will of God. So Anthropos is not God. All right, so in First Titus or First Timothy, I'm not sure if that's Titus or Timothy 6:11. O man of God. Some regard this in the Old Testament sense as of a prophet acting in a distinctive character, possessed of divine authority. But the context is of such a general character as to confirm the more extended designation. All right. Let's go. It goes less further. Let's see. What's that? I don't know what RV adds the italicized word man. Ye all are one man in Christ, in accordance with Ephesians, which speak of Jew and Gentile as becoming one new man in Christ. The figure is closely analogous to that of the body in these two passages. One is masculine, i.e. one person. One is neuter, one thing. Okay, the union is moral. The union is moral, a process in course of accomplishment. Okay. His love toward man. Translate to genitive plural, anthropos with the article mankind. It might have been rendered the rest of men. Okay. Man, without distinction, people. So now they give, I guess this is from how they shows in Strong's. Strong G44, people, man, without distinction of sex. Like I said, see how it shows you right there? Aner. See here, aner is the word for when you want to say a man like of the male gender. That's the Greek word aner. Anthropos means as you've seen in the entries, it means human beings. So whether you're talking about women, men, or men and women together, it means human beings. It's not talking about the sex of the persons. It just means human beings. But if you want to speak of the sex of the human being, you use the word aner for a man. But that's not the word Jesus used. Jesus used the word, or the writer has Jesus using the word anthropos, showing that Jesus is a full human being and only a human being. So as I said in that debate at the end, I am not going to retire that argument because it still holds. It still holds weight. William did not refute it. Right? In fact, that was the point that I was bringing up, that when he kept asking me about what Abraham, it doesn't matter what Abraham did. Because that's ignoring the words of Jesus, which was that he is saying, he's alleged to be saying that he is a human being, a full and complete human being that is in distinction from God. Which is why he said, I am a human being who told you the truth that I heard from God. That further distinguishes himself from God, showing that he's not God. Right? That phrase further, not only did he use a word that distinguishes himself from God, showing that he can't be God, but then he makes it clear by saying that he heard the truth from God. So he's further distinguishing God from himself by saying, I heard the truth from God. So not only am I a human being that is distinct from God, I'm further showing you that I'm not God because I said I heard the truth from God. So that's why I said in the debate that the part about what did Abraham, when he was asking me what did Abraham do, it's irrelevant. That's ignoring. Pay attention to Jesus's words. See, he didn't want to address that. He didn't want to talk further about that. Instead, deflecting to, well, what did Abraham not do? But as I still addressed it as I looked at the commentaries that showed that the statement that Abraham didn't do that, it had nothing to do with Jesus being God, or that Abraham didn't do what they did, which was, i.e., trying to kill God. No, it said that when he said that Abraham didn't do that, it was a reference to that Abraham didn't do what they were doing, which was they were being disobedient to Jesus bringing them the word that he heard from God. Abraham didn't do that. When Abraham heard the word of God, he listened. He was obedient. He was faithful. He listened to the words that that were brought to him from God, and he obeyed God. They didn't do that. They were disobedient. They didn't do what God told them to do. So that's what he said. What the commentaries say that it meant by Abraham didn't do that, meaning Abraham didn't disobey. Not that Abraham didn't try to kill God. So I'm sorry, William. You're incorrect. You falsely charged me as lying. And as we are all looking live, I'm doing this live. I'm doing this live for everyone to see that if it's there, it's there, and I'll admit it. But as we're looking live right now, and as you see, not a single entry so far has shown where this word can be applied to God. In fact, as I said, I would question if it did say that, because I would question if it could even be applied to God at all, based upon what we've seen so far. Imperfections, human frailties, how could that be applied to God in any way at all? But as you see thus far, we have not seen where it has been, where the entries show it's applied to God, as William claimed. Okay, so here, let's see, person, a generic name for man, is translated persons. Okay, hypostasis, substance is translated persons. This man is translated persons. He, placed in a position of strong emphasis, is translated in his own person, stressing the fact that in spite of the apostles' inclination to retain Onesimus, he has sent him as being, so to speak, is very hard, instead of adopting some other method. Paneros, what's this? Wicked, used as a noun, a wicked person. A person. All right, and then that's the end of it. There you go. That's the end. Okay, that's the end. So I don't see anywhere where it is applied to God. Okay, I don't see where it's applied to God in Vine, and I think those ones towards the end, I don't think that's even Vine at all. Anyway, that's just seems like I guess that's the Strong's reference. But these right here, starting right here, this is supposed to be from Vine's entry, right? And as we looked at it, we didn't see anything where it showed that anthropos is applied to God. or there's an exception where it is applied to God. Even when we looked at section K. Section K was the one what I remember him, what he mentioned. And as I look here at section K, I do not see where it is applied to God in section K either. Okay? Son of man, for the man of sin. But as I already talked about, the Son of Man is not God. Son of Man, as was shown to us on the Bible Study Tools website, is just an ordinary saying in the Old Testament in many places. And if it's used more definitive, then it's referring to the Messiah. But the Messiah is a human being also. Messiah is one who is the anointed of God, but he's not God himself. He's the anointed of God. God has anointed that person, but that person is not God himself. So I don't see where Anthropos is applied to God. So therefore, the conclusion is that Mr. Islam did not lie in that debate. So let's take a look, though. Let's take a look at some of the other things on this page that talk about Anthropos. As we already showed you, that just when they give you the very basic definition of the word, the root word etymology, it says man-faced, i.e. a human being. Okay? But let's see what their other sources say. Let's see what their other sources say. Let's see. On outline of biblical usage. It says here, outline of biblical usage. Can you guys see that? Right? Outline of biblical usage. It says a human being, whether male or female, generically to include all human individuals, which again can't be God. Look at this. To distinguish man from beings of a different order, of animals and plants, from God and Christ, of the angels. With the added notion, look at this, with the added notion of weakness. Again, how can that be applied to God at all? How can this word be used to apply to God in any way when it implies, as it shows here, weakness, the added notion of weakness? Can God have some weaknesses? No, right? So how can this word be applied to God in any way? Okay? It says, with the added notion of weakness by which man is led into a mistake or prompted to sin, with the adjunct notion of contempt or disdainful pity, with reference to twofold nature of man, body and soul. Notice body and soul with reference to the twofold nature of man, the corrupt and the truly Christian man conformed to the nature of God, with reference to sex, a male, indefinitely someone, a man, one, in the plural people, joined with other words, merchant man. So again, as you see, again, in the biblical outline usage section, it doesn't show that it's applied to God. It shows that it distinguishes, once again, to distinguish man from other beings, to distinguish man from plants, to distinguish man from God, right? To distinguish man from God and Christ, to distinguish man from angels. Okay? It's not used of God. It's not used of God. It distinguishes, though. Notice, to distinguish human beings from. To distinguish human beings from. John has Jesus using this word, which distinguishes himself from God. So even as Christ, he's Anthropos, he says, and he is distinguished from God. But I don't see where even in here in the biblical usage, they don't show me any entry where it is applied to God. This was, as you see right there, right? This section is the outline of biblical usage. They don't show me one place where it is used of God, though. You notice that, right? They don't show me one place in their outline of its biblical usage where it is used biblically to God. So I'm vindicated. I did not lie. And plus, when I showed you on the screen, that's what I was looking at, and I read everything that was there, and it didn't show anywhere where it makes a reference, an exception to God, to that Anthropos is used in reference to God. So I did not lie. You saw it there. But let's look. Let's keep looking. Let's see. Strong's definitions. Anthropos, the countenance from man face, i.e. a human being. Once again, a human being, a certain man. Thayer's lexicon. Let's see what Thayer's has to say. Thayer's Greek lexicon. Let's see. Man, i.e. man's face. Certius. From Homer down. Man. It is used universally with reference to the genus or nature without distinction of sex. A human being, whether male or female. Let's see. And in this sense, with the article generically so, as to include all human individuals. All human individuals. Once again, God is not a human individual at all. It gives these references here. Let's see. B. So that a man is distinguished from beings of a different order. A man is distinguished from beings of a different race or order, i.e. from animals, plants, from God. It says from here, from God, from Christ as divine, and from angels. But notice again, it is not used for God. It's used to distinguish from God. Okay? To distinguish from God. To distinguish from Christ as divine, it says. And to distinguish from angels. But again, his argument was that it can be used for God. No, here it says, no, it distinguishes human beings from God. So if Christ himself is also Anthropos, as it says in John 8:40, then he is distinguished from God as well. All right? He's distinguished from God as well. But it is not used to show that God is Anthropos. That's what William's argument was. So we still do not see where it is used in a reference that God is Anthropos. Instead, we are seeing constantly that it is used to distinguish human beings from God. Okay? Again, it says with the added notion of weakness by which man is led into mistake or prompted to sin. Once again, how can that be? That can't be attributed to God, right? God has no weaknesses. Let's see. Ye conduct yourselves as men to speak according to human modes of thinking. I speak as a man to whom analogies from human affairs present themselves, while I illustrate divine things by an example drawn from ordinary human life. As man is wont to fight, urged on by the desire of gain, honor, and other earthly advantages, is not accommodated to the opinions and desires of men, with the accessory notion of malignity. It's like bad nature, I guess. With the adjunct notion of contempt, is one either of contempt and disdainful pity, or of gentle rebuke. The word serves to suggest commemoration. Behold the man in question, maltreated, defenseless. With reference to the twofold nature of man, body and soul. Again, everything is about the human being. Look, everything is about the human being. Everything is about the human being. With a reference to the twofold moral condition of man, right? The corrupted and the truly Christian man conform to the nature of God. With a reference to the sex, contextually a male. Indefinitely without the articles, someone, a certain man, when who he is either is not known or is not important. Equivalent to, with the addition of, in address where the speaker either cannot or will not give the name, or whether the writer addresses any and every reader, where what is said holds of every man, so that is equivalent to the German indefinite man one. Let's see. So also we're opposed to domestics, to a wife, to a father, to the master of the household, in which passages many confounding sense and significance incorrectly say that the word signifies father of a family, husband, or servant. But they say that's, I don't know what. In the plural is sometimes the people, German dialect. No one is joined to another substantive. A merchant, Enoch. Also, people writing Homer. It is aid to a Gentile noun. Contact a Roman citizen with the article, the particular man under consideration who is being plain from the context. Alright. Phrases. A man devoted to the a man devoted to the service of God, God's minister, to the evangelist, the associates of the apostles, of prophets. Here it says of prophets, like often in the Old Testament. Okay, and I guess that's it. What else do they have under here? What's all this? I guess these are just verses where it's used. Okay. All right, well, the main point was the argument was about vines. We looked at vines and we didn't see, at least from this entry here, from this online version, that it doesn't show where it is applied to God at all. We looked at some of these other references on this page and everything seems to point to a human being. And again, they notice that point is in there, that it distinguishes the Anthropos from God. Right? It distinguishes the Anthropos from God. It doesn't show how the Anthropos can also be applied to God. It says that it distinguishes. In Thayers, in Vines, they all show that it distinguishes, that Anthropos is a distinction from God. It doesn't show where it is used in commonality to God or for God, but it distinguishes from God. Right? To distinguish man from beings of a different order, i.e. to distinguish from animals or from God. Okay? And it says also, and Christ as well, so I'll put that in there. But again, it's saying it distinguishes from that. It's not a word that is used, that is applied to show commonality to God. So it said this word distinct. Remember, my argument is that this is a word that distinguishes human beings from God. His argument is that there's an exception, that it could be used for God. But as you see, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. And here it's even saying that it distinguishes from God. So if Christ refers to himself as Anthropos in John 8:40, he is therefore, as Christ, still Anthropos, distinguished from God. He is distinguished from God as well, because he's using that word for himself. That's what this word means. If that's what this word means, and he is using it in reference to himself, then he is distinguishing himself from God, which again, the sentence, the phrase, shows that he's doing that anyway, because he says, you are trying to kill me, a human being that told you the truth that I heard from God. So he's further making it clear that he's distinguished from God by the fact that he says he heard the truth from God. As I said in that debate, and I've said in many debates, we all agree, Christians, Jews, Muslims, right? We all agree that God already knows the truth. God is where the truth comes from. He doesn't have to hear it. He already knows it. Here, Jesus is alleged to say that he heard the truth from God. And notice he is clear in this phrase to say God. right? He doesn't say, oh, I heard it from the Father. No, he said, I heard the truth from God. He's referring to who he heard it from as God. He's calling this being God that he heard it the truth from. He's saying, no, I heard it from God. But the Christian is telling us that Jesus is God. As I say again, as I said in that debate, if he's God, why did he say he heard it from God then? Right? If you're God yourself, why are you saying that you heard it from God? There is no other God, right? There is no God for you to hear it from if you're God yourself. So it would make no sense that if you're God, for you to say, I heard the truth from God. That doesn't make any sense unless there's another God, right? Unless there's another God. But that's not the Christian belief. There's only one God. The Christians believe that there's only one God. Okay, then. And they tell us that it's Jesus, supposedly. Well, clearly, Jesus doesn't agree with them in their book. He clearly doesn't agree with them in their book. Because if he's that one God that they claim that he is, why is he saying that he heard the truth from God then? Why didn't he just say, I know the truth? How come he didn't just say, I know the truth already? No, he said, I heard the truth from God. I'm a human being who's distinguished from God. And I heard the truth from that God that I'm distinguished from. So as you can see, this word, as you see here, it is this biblical usage of this word is a human being, whether male or female, generically to include all human individuals, which God is not one of them. And so as we look down the line, there is nowhere that we see where they say that in its biblical outline it is used of God. It ends at joined with other words, merchantman. That's where it ends. It doesn't say where in plural it's people, and definitely someone, and man, one, with reference to sex, a male, with reference to the twofold nature of man, the corrupt and the truly Christian man, conform to the nature of God, but he's not God. And again, this is referring to man, to the human being, when he's in line with God, but he's still a human being. He's just, his nature has been conformed. In other words, he's a righteous man. He's doing the will of God. He's obedient to God. But he's not God. So as you can see, they do not show us any entry where in its biblical outline it is applied to God. No, instead they say it is used in its biblical usage to distinguish man from God. But it is not used in a reference to God. So I'm sorry, William. Your charge against me is false. I did not lie. And it appears that you are mistaken. It appears that you are mistaken. And again, as I showed, most importantly, the issue was what I was using from Vine. And as I use, this is the Vine, this little box right here, right? Where you see my cursor moving. That little box right there. This is where I built my argument from first. And still, as you see, it didn't give any reference where it is used in reference to God. So I stand on my argument. I will continue to use it. I will continue to use it. William did not refute it, and I did not lie. We read all of them. You saw me. We went all the way down on Vines, and not one of the entries, including K, does not show that it is an exception where it is used in reference to God. And as I said, how could it be, everyone? How could it be if the lady, the woman who called, if she's watching this, or if you do happen to watch this, how could this word be used for God when it carries these attributes that are anti-God? Look, suggestion of human frailty. How could you apply that to God? You can't. And imperfection. How could you apply that to God? You can't. This word can't be applied to God in any way. I don't see any exception. I don't see any exception for this word being applied to God. Not only do they not show it, but just in what this word carries, the meanings that this word carries. There doesn't appear to be any way you could exceptionally make an exception and apply it to God without, disrespecting God. Because it carries the meaning of human frailties and imperfections. fallen humanity, anything of human or anything of God is not anything of human origin. God is not of human origin at all. I repeat, God is not of human origin at all. This says anything of human origin. How then can you apply it to God in any exception? How could there be an exception made for this word to apply to God when it carries such things that are completely contrary to the nature and being of God? Human frailties, imperfections, practices of fallen humanity, anything of human origin? No, there's no exceptions. I'm sorry. And again, as I said, we look the standard generally accepted among men. We looked at all of them, and not a single one of them, for what I see, makes an exception as he had claimed. Not a single one makes an exception, including his K. Here, K does not. I don't see K anywhere where K says that it could be used of God. Okay. We don't see anywhere where it is used of God. All right, so there it is. There it is. No exceptions. Right? No exceptions. So the conclusion then is that Mr. Islam did not lie. All right? Mr. Islam did not lie. I was falsely charged. The evidence is in my favor. None of the entries show that Anthropos has an exception where it can be applied to God. Okay? It's not there. We don't see that. All right? It's not there. You all saw it with your own eyes, all right? You guys are witnesses. You saw it. We were live. There was no editing. You were all live. I scrolled. We looked at it. We read. We tried to read every single one. And as you saw with your own eyes and you heard with your own ears, you see there was no exception given where it could be applied to God. So not only from Vines, which was where the argument started, but when we looked at the other places, Thayer's and what the website says itself, it shows that the outline of its biblical usage is showing distinction from God. It does not show that its biblical usage is used, it has an exception where it is applied to God. All right, so there we have it. Okay, there we have it. So I did not lie. All right, I did not lie. Plus, you guys already know my style. You already know my style. I always try my best to be as accurate and precise with my information as possible. Right? I always try to be as accurate and sharply precise as possible. So for him to charge me that I lied, like I said on the debate, I said that's a very strong charge. That's a very strong charge to say that I lied. But I'm vindicated. As you saw, I showed you exactly what I used and what I was using yesterday during the debate, where I got the information from, since I've been using that argument. And as you see, it supports me. It's still in my favor. There is no, I don't see, you didn't see it either. I didn't see any place where there was an exception that it could be applied to God. And again, I repeat, the meanings that this word carries doesn't show how it could have an exception. Right? It doesn't, the meanings that this word carries within it, human frailties, imperfections, it doesn't allow for an exception where it could apply to God without insulting God. Right? It doesn't seem that you would be able to apply this word to God with any exceptions. And if you did so, you would be insulting God. You would be attributing imperfections to God. You would be attributing human frailties to God, which God does not have. So I repeat, this word, from what I've seen and what you've seen, does not seem to allow any exceptions. And the sources I have not seen, nor did you see, where they give an exception where this could be applied to God. So remember, in Hosea 11:9, God says he's not, if you use the Greek version of it, he's not Anthropos. He says, I am not Anthropos. So how could it be? So that's another point. How could it be applied to him? If he's saying point blank that he's not Anthropos, how then could it somewhere else in the Bible apply to him when he says, I'm not that? I'm not that. So how then could the word be used to apply to him if he says he's not that? Unless it's a contradiction, right? And of course, if it's a contradiction, then we determine that it's not from God then, right? Because like I said in the debate, they both can't be true. He can't say in one place, I'm not Anthropos, and in another place, oh, the word Anthropos is applied to him. Okay? So, as we see, that's not the case, because the sources demonstrate that in its biblical usage, it is not used for God at all. It's used to distinguish mankind, human beings, from God. But it is not used in reference to God. All right. So, thank you guys for tuning in to the second show. We'll go ahead and end it there. Remember to utilize those links in the description of the video. And we'll see you guys on the next show, inshallah. Don't forget, as a matter of fact, I'm still going to do that show that I wanted to do about the, what did I say? About the abrogation. Remember the abrogation claim that the peaceful verses are abrogated and all that? I'm still going to do the show about that. There's a few other things that have come up in the media in current events that I want to address as well. But yeah, we're still going to do that show. So look for that show also. All right. Salam, brother Muhammad Zakaria. Welcome. So yeah, I'm still going to do that show also. That'd probably be the next show. But there's a couple of things that have come up in the in current events that I would like to address as well, so we can talk about that. All right. So there's a number of topics that we can do a lot of shows on. So just be on the lookout for that, inshallah. All right. All right, brothers and sisters. You have a good night. Once again, don't forget to utilize the links in the description of the video. Help your brother out. Make a donation. Sponsor your brother on Patreon. All right. So I'll see you guys in the next show. All right. Assalamu alaikum.